All right, and we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I am David.
And I am Justin.
Read it just like that. Together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
Not only that, but we're also the founders of Codename.
And we're going to be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
I feel like we have set a precedent on that one.
Yeah. Today is our 36th episode.
36. Well, I was thinking today, instead of taking questions, we should just change it up and do drawings like they do on the sketching hour.
You know what? That is a fantastic idea. I am actually a very good artist. I actually have some giraffe art in one of our other games.
That's how you spell giraffe. Yeah, I think I remember that. Let me see if I can pull that one up.
Okay, prepare yourself, folks. It's incredible. Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah. Yeah, full disclosure, I actually only did the initial line work. A professional artist colored it in, but you know, what do you think?
I don't think I'm getting a very good angle from here, but I mean, I don't think I got anything on that. We can't do the art show now. We're really one-sided. We're just going to have to answer development and design questions about Idle Champions.
Well, you know, if you don't ask any questions, however, you may have to suffer through David's one-man reenactment of reading the shop feedback channel on the Discord.
It's a PG-13 reenactment, though. Wait a minute. That's the line from last week's episode.
I think it still applies.
And also, do I have to do the reenactments now?
Yeah, I'm taking the week off. And besides, the shop design was all you.
No. That was a team effort. 100% team effort. Anyway, as always, we have pulled some questions from the previous show that we didn't get to, and we're going to answer some of those while we're waiting for new questions to come in. And of course, I'm going to start with some updates on previous items that we've tagged to be looked at by the dev team. First item on the list here, of course, is that for those of you who are testing out the new shop, you'd be happy to know we've been busy making changes based on the feedback that we've been receiving, as well as getting various bugs squashed. I know even during the previous stream with Sean, he had the game freeze on him a few times because of an update issue with, I believe it was gems or event currency getting updated, something along those lines. But that is fixed in the current build, and a number of other issues are also getting fixed, and they'll be pushed out later today. So if you are on Steam or Epic and you have been updated to the new shop, those issues will be fixed for you before the end of the day, probably before the end of the show. There's still a number of items on the list. I know I was just talking to Stefan, and he's working on getting the hotkey legend in on the main menu, so that's coming. We still haven't got a fix in for Steam achievements for transfer web jail accounts. We're still looking at an indication of formation preview, an indicator that shows which slot is blocked by a permanent champion. The Briv skips feats. More objective details on the multi-party display. In fact, there's a whole ton of multi-party related stuff coming. And then some improvements to the open more chest flow. And we haven't tried, someone's behind me. Still checking in on why formation circles aren't always showing when always show is selected. Okay, let's get into the questions. We got a handful of questions here from last week. First question here is from JS in the... Jathint? This question is, will achievements ever be updated on console, or can I comfortably ignore those alternate accounts once I'm at 100%?
Yeah, so achievements on console, the console achievements at least, the ones that you use to get like the platinum trophy or whatever the equivalent on Xbox is.
Gamer points.
You get some points. Those are more difficult for us to update, which is why we haven't updated them. There are some very kind of restrictive requirements for updating those by the consoles. So it is unlikely that we will ever really add more to that. Also, just the nature of the kind of achievements we have there are kind of intended to be, something that you can complete, and not something like the in-game ones where it's like we're always adding more and making that 100% harder and harder and further away kind of thing. So yeah, we don't have any plans at this time to update the achievements on consoles. That's not to say we never will, but it's not something we're planning to do at this point. Let's see. The next question is from Super Fluffy Kitty from last week's show. And they say, if you ult the nerds as the zone transitions, the ult will be placed on cooldown and the nerds won't shake up and change their configuration. Can this be looked into? Either the ult shouldn't go on cooldown, or they should change configuration.
I can't argue with either of those points.
I think one of those should happen.
Let's tag that and have it looked at. That sounds definitely like a bug.
Yeah, that's probably just some sort of order of operations thing there.
Okay, next question here, also from Super Fluffy Kitty. Now that nerds are in the game store, will their feats be revisited to make them patron viable?
That's a good question. And I highlighted that last week because I was like, that's a good question. I don't fully know the answer to that. Sort of my inclination is the nerds are just kind of a fun. They're a little bit kind of out of world, but they are technically, there was a whole thing. They're D&D characters for them. But I don't think we have a plan right now to kind of go through and modify them, but it could happen at some point. If we look at the kind of champion usage and they show up in the section that we're trying to update, maybe. I'm not in a rush. I think there's some other champions that need some more love before the nerds get tossed into every patron. The next question is from Phoenix Fire from last week, and they asked, is there a way in game to let us know when a new version of the game is released so we know when to restart?
Is there a way in game? So I guess currently there is not a way in game, but we could certainly do something on that, don't you think?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of caveats. I think we wouldn't necessarily push something like that right away after we push a new build, because generally there's a bit of a cooling off time after we push a new build where we sort of a trickle of people grab it and go in, and then if there are any issues with it, we kind of see them emerge. And so we wouldn't want to necessarily, like, as soon as we push a new build, be like, hey, everyone grab the new build and restart, because if there are any issues in there that we missed during testing, we like the least number of people as possible to encounter those issues. But it's certainly something that once we're kind of happy with the build, that it could be something that we could push, and there could be like a pop-up or something again that's like, hey, a new version is available. Of course, we'd have to make sure that was all sort of platform specific and track the different versions that are out on different platforms and know when to pop that up there, and that becomes a whole thing because we've got like 8 different versions of the game running on all the different platforms. But yeah, it's certainly something we could do.
It certainly would have to be platform specific, and I think it matters more on platforms that you're less likely to have the client automatically updating for you. So Steam is probably an easy one, and Steam can be pretty quick on the updates there. But I mean, if you're on iOS or Android or any of the other platforms where you have to manually go do the update, this could be convenient to know that that's the case, because there's certainly the time between getting those updates being out and people getting them is larger on those platforms. So, okay, next question here is from Malcaver. Are there any plans to actually reduce the cooldown between wild offers? I bought several, but the time between them is, well, long.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And actually, right now in the game, this is a very timely question, because right now in the game, we are running a wild offer storm, which means the wild offers will reset every 3 hours or immediately after you buy one. So if you're looking to get more wild offers, now's the time to jump into game. And every time you reset or reload the game after 3 hours, you'll get a new wild offer. So. And we do plan to do those kind of wild offer storms from time to time. I don't know if there's any plans on the plate to change the sort of default cooldown between wild offers, but there's certainly one going on right now. So if you're looking for something some specific items, just keep checking those wild offers, because they're going to be switching up very often right now.
All right, and there concludes the questions left over from last week. First question of the week, or at least the first one that hasn't been crossed off, is here from Feral Storm 201. The question is, with so much alarm among players relating to potential Hugh, Briv, Jim nerfs, has there been any discussion about swapping Jim and another slot 8 character, perhaps Hitch, to end the gameplay style that Cini does not like, yet not require changes to the original design of any of the characters?
Yeah, so this is an interesting kind of way to approach some things. Um, I think that we've been kind of discussing internally the plans for Human and Briv and Jim, and I think we're pivoting a little bit on our initial plans. So we're not fully sure what we're going to be doing at this point. We're definitely going to be doing some stuff, but it might not necessitate gym changes potentially. We might just focus on Hugh and Briv, but we don't really have the very specifics to talk about of that yet. There's certainly some of the main things we want to prevent is players just being able to skip content. Being able to go really fast is fine as long as it doesn't hurt the servers. But being able to skip the content is one of the big things that we're looking at with the Briv nerf specifically. And then Hugh is more about going too fast and upsetting our delicate Fleur servers. So yeah, we're kind of still evaluating those. We don't have a timeline on when those would happen, but we've kind of backed off a little bit of Jim. So yeah, we'll keep you guys updated as we figure out more of what's going on with that stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's certainly worth pointing out, and I know the sort of the way this player phrased it in the question, which was the play style that C&E does not like. But I think it's important to look at that actually we actually had reports around that was basically along the lines of this seems to be the best, fastest, viable strategy, and it's not really any fun anymore to do it, but I feel like I have to do it because it's the most efficient, the best way to speed through things. And when it kind of takes the fun out of the game, that's what we're trying to prevent. It's not a case we don't like the play style. We don't want players to feel that they have to play a particular way to be the most efficient in a way that sucks the fun out of the game, that ruins the puzzle. So so working to make sure that the fun, that the figuring out how to get past those bosses isn't removed. That particular challenge isn't removed from the game because, well, on one hand you might be like, yeah, I can really rush through it. On the other hand, you've taken away the challenge, and if you take away the challenge, actually that kills a lot of the fun. So that's why we're looking at that. It's not we don't like it. It's a case of it's actually changes the fun in the game. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that's a really important perspective on it. Let's see. The next question here is, and we answered that we did the giveaway very early this week. It feels like. But there was a giveaway, and if you are hearing this, you have missed it. So next week, pay attention in chat for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice. And congratulations to the Real Bunny Beast, who just won 42 chests of their choice this week. Good to see some common question askers show up in there. So let's see. Next question from Emote. I'm just gonna, you know what? If I take like 3 or 4 shots at their name, odds are one of them will be correct. So they say, from what I've heard, the amount of clicks needed to do different tasks on the new shop seems to be basically the same as the old shop, and the colors also seem to be fairly bad for those with color blindness. It feels like a wasted opportunity to have added some accessibility improvements. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so the new shop, sort of one of the, there's a number of sort of pillars that we were looking at when we were looking at the new shop, and we wanted to make the shop pop more, the characters, to show off the art more than it did before, be a little more exciting to use. And I know it as per the aforementioned feedback channel, I mean, certainly it's a work in progress at this point. There's a bunch of adjustments that we're going to make. I'm not 100% sure where the color blindness feedback shook out. I know that Peter was talking to Mars about that, just to get some input on that. I'd have to, like I said, I'd have to actually see what the feedback came back on for that, if there were issues where it was making things more difficult to see. I know we took the approach that we went in with on a design side was just to make things sort of bright and colorful, even knowing that was a little bit different from sort of the Steam UI, sort of more closer to some of the console stuff that we've done. But based on some of that feedback, we did pull down some of the brightness, and we're going to see we're going to see how people feel about that, as well as we're adding back in some additional character and what am I looking for? And like GE icons and stuff on the actual front-facing shop items. One of the things that we had looked at attempting to do was make the shop a lot cleaner, and I think in doing that we removed some of the functionality, which was being able to see what was in the items without having to actually click on them and take a look at the more detailed screen. And so we're pulling back on some of that. We're getting some of that in. I know one of the changes that Jacob was working on just before the stream started was getting the characters and the cards back on the chests one, so you know at a glance who it's for. So we're going to keep looking at that and make sure that we haven't made the shop harder to use. Like, it's critical that we haven't gone and taken away functionality in an effort to make it pop a little more. So we're going to keep evaluating on that and see what it comes out at. But yeah, I'm taking a look here in the doc here. I know Mars shared a comment here saying that they did have a little bit of difficulties, but it wasn't too bad. But it would depend on the type of color blindness that an individual would have. So, but we'll keep looking at that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's like you said, something that we're just going to continue to kind of improve over the next little while, because it's it's a big important piece of the game from just keeping the lights on perspective. So we want to make sure we do it right. So
yeah.
we can continue to appreciate all the feedback we've gotten, both the good and bad feedback, or not the good and bad. All feedback is good, but the positive and the negative feedback, it's good. So keep it coming, guys.
Yeah, it's funny. I see the comment in the chat right now. The bright and colorful approach is a big turnoff for one of the chatters there. And we did joke about adding a button in the corner that was the I hate rainbows button, and you could push it and boom, everything would have black backgrounds again. I don't know that we're actually going to do that, but
I saw a version on the screen over there just before we came in that was quite a bit more muted.
Yeah. One of the things that we had done actually for the backgrounds was we did a color calculation on the art in the foreground, and then took a complementary color from that to make the background, and then to give it a gradient, we actually kind of rotated around the color wheel in about 30 degrees to get something that was similar, but off enough that you had a more of a splash of color there. And we pulled that back down to I think we changed it back down to 10 degrees, which gives it more of a gradient that's from a similar color, so there's not actually quite as much color there now. So yeah, like I said, we'll keep working at it and see if we can pull it back a little bit from some of the descriptions that were along the lines of a disco party, or I mean, it's not supposed to look like the inside of certain gaming computers, so we'll keep at it.
Yeah. Let's see. The next question here from the lurking writer. Will you ever have a guest dev on this show, or do none of them want to be in the spotlight?
I mean, we have a precedent that we've set now, but I wouldn't rule it out 100%. It's just not. I know we had a good opportunity for someone to be in on a day that Justin was out, or I'd say, or myself, but I don't think I've actually missed a day. I
don't think you've missed a show yet. I think I've missed a couple, and I think it like the obvious choice would be like someone like Peter or Jacob, and the issue is the last couple times that I've been out, it's been like right before a build lock, and they've been like, no, I do not have an hour and a half or 2 hours to spend on stream answering questions, because I've got about a bazillion things to try and get done before the lock. So always a challenge.
Yeah, it's one of those.
I'm just sitting around, twiddling my thumbs all day. So.
Well, I was going to say, it's one of those things. Often you get a comment of like, you were spending your time on this instead of fixing this or that. Justin and I, a lot of our time goes into sort of the decision making at this point. Design level stuff, and so we're not actually in the code fixing the bugs or adding the features for the most part. Except when I decide that things should have hats. But when it does come to someone who's in the middle of working on a feature or a fix that needs to go out, we really don't want to pull them away from that just to get them on stream. But if an opportunity came up where they weren't in the middle of putting out a fire, there's no reason why we wouldn't bring them on. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Next question. This one here is from Onyx Squared. They say, I think this question was missed. Do you have any plans to add Native American or Aboriginal champions to the game? Or is it even on your radar? I would love to see some added, especially with actual players who fit that. I love the range of your champions. Thank you.
Yeah, I did see this question last time, and I didn't really have a good answer to it. And I've actually been thinking about it over the last few weeks. And I think that if we had like a content creator who was Native American or Aboriginal, and they had a character that they made that was kind of inspired by that, I would have no problem adding that to the game. I think that'd be really cool. I think the problem with just adding a Native American or Aboriginal champion just kind of directly to the game is that there aren't really any Native Americans in Faerun, so it doesn't really fit, directly like that. But I think we can find opportunities to have champions or whatnot that are kind of inspired by that. And I think that'd be cool if the opportunity came up. I would absolutely go for that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next question. This question is from OG17. Could Dungeon Master be universally eligible for variants, so his allow and ineligible character is reliably useful for restrictive variants rather than only when DM is eligible himself?
Yeah, this is a good question. I guess our champion spotlight for him is not out yet. I'm just checking our website. Maybe it's coming out tomorrow. I'm not sure. Oh, I can't spell apparently the name of my company. It's a very long name, to be fair. Let's see here. No, I guess we haven't released the champion spotlight yet. So here's a spoiler for the champion spotlight. Dungeon Master will in fact be universally eligible for all variants. You can use Dungeon Master in any adventure or variant or patron variant, regardless of the requirements. He's eligible for everything. So for any of those sort of super restrictive variants, for example, there's like a Strahd one, I think, where there's only 2 champions available. Now you'll have 4 champions available. It's 100% more champions. So yeah, Dungeon Master is going to be great for those situations where you've really got a tough time fitting champions in. So the answer is yes. Someone's asking about how do you get this Dungeon Master fellow. Dungeon Master is coming out as our 100th champion in the next event.
Spoilers. Wait,
that was already announced.
Oh, never mind.
That was in an article somewhere. Let's see. Next question here from Seawolf177. Says, last week there was a comment made about a slider for the wild offers where items would be removed if the offer was lowered in price. Can this be looked at seriously? There are GEs and skins I would like, but don't necessarily need or want the potions/gems/time gate pieces, and be more inclined to make a purchase at a lower price point.
Yeah, so I mean, this is an interesting. It was an interesting idea. I don't think something like specifically to that, or to move like a slider, like a scaling slider on the actual offer, would be something that we would actually implement. But I do know that, like, I've seen feedback around this at various points, and getting wild offers in that are something that provide the value that you do want is something that we're going to be continuing to look at. Yeah, and it definitely is something that we want to think about further on. I'm not 100% sure. I know that's sort of been up on our radar, just figuring out what's the best way to adjust the offers when they come in, and maybe it might even be nice if there was something we could put on the offers of, like, I like this, but, some of a thumbs up, thumbs down on the offer when you see it, that could be information that we could use to adjust.
Yeah, I mean, right now we do, like, I think I've said this in a couple of episodes, we do make some very slight adjustments to future offers based on whether or not you buy a certain offer. So, if you're constantly ignoring offers for items for a certain champion, we will try not to offer you those same items again. Likewise, if you buy, familiar offers, then we'll likely offer you more familiar offers in the future, kind of thing. But it's a pretty simplistic system at this point, and there's no way to give feedback on it aside from, buying or not buying. So there's no way to tell it, hey, I like this, like you were saying, I like this offer, but not at this price point, kind of thing.
Yeah, it needs more thought. I don't have an immediate answer that solves it, but I do like the idea of potentially offering feedback or a feedback mechanism. That this value is terrible. I don't show this to me again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next question here is from Cassius335 asking, Justin's giraffe in Idle Champions when? Please don't leave us wanting that.
Oh man, well, I mean, if it was up to me, the whole game would be my art. But it's not up to me. We have an art director, and he doesn't like it when I do that. Or I guess technically, Alexis is the art lead on Champions, so she gets this final say on whether or not my art gets into the game, and she says no. Well, actually, I never asked her. I just assume she says no. If she was smart, she'd say no, and she's pretty smart.
She'd probably say it slightly nicer, really. I don't quite think that matches the art style, Justin.
Doesn't quite match the art, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I see a comment here in the chat asking if there's a way to stop wild offers from offering a gold item in a slot you already have. Do we do that? I feel like we don't do that. It's not supposed to do that.
I don't think so. It certainly shouldn't.
Yeah. If you're getting an offer.
If you see that, we can actually look into that. If you are getting that, please open a ticket and we can confirm if that's happening or not. But that certainly should not be happening. Wild offers should always offer you stuff that you do not have. Otherwise, what a waste of a wild offer.
Yeah. Garrowar's following up in chat with the same comment for sure. If they get that, if you do see that, for sure, open a bug. A bug. Open a bug. Open a ticket.
Open a bug.
Yeah. Jeez.
Create a bug. And then let us know about it. Yeah.
Okay. Take my foot out of my mouth and ask the next question, which is from JDog2773. With Ashara users picking with Ashara, when is that?
With Ashara users pick that.
Users. With Ashara users picking Potpourri probably 99 out of 100 times, would you consider moving all other bonds to her second spec so the dwarves, elves, humans can get some Ashara love?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. I highlighted this one because we do have data on what specializations players are picking. I don't believe Potpourri is quite that high, but it certainly is fairly high. I know that the dwarves, elves ones get some usage when I use Ashara with the Companions of the Hall build. But the specialization choices is actually something that we are actively looking at in Rebalance at this point, and looking at ways that we can buff up specs that aren't being picked very often to try and make them a little more enticing. So it is something that we're actively looking at in terms of our rebalance plans for the future. So if there's a situation where Ashara is getting Potpourri like 4 times out of 5 or something like that, then that's something we would look at finding ways to make those other 2 specs more enticing, if you will.
All right, next question from Rizlaflow. There was a post on Reddit recently about potions of polish being useless after full shiny champs, which was surprising. Will this be changed?
This is an interesting. We've gotten this question before, and I always kind of have to sort of put on my thinking face when we get these questions, because getting full shinies on all champs is actually very, very hard. Like, that takes quite a bit of effort, and the number of people that have full shinies on all items and therefore have potions of polish that can't be used is an infinitesimally small percentage of the full user base. And so in terms of the time it would take to sort of think about what to do with potions of polish that once you have them all, and find sort of a mechanic for that to make them useful after that point is probably not a great time or a great use of our time from a design point. So if that percentage creeps up, if players are really starting to get into this situation where they're getting a whole bunch of excess potions of polish, then it's something we could address at that point. But at this point, I think it's just too small of a portion of the player base to really spend resources on. Let's see. The next question is from SailNet, and they ask, is there anything that can be done to improve the release cadence on non-PC platform releases? If not, can you talk about some of the issues that are involved with that process?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the first question would be, what platform are you on? Because certainly that's going to impact the rate at which you're getting builds. All of the different platforms have different requirements in terms of getting the builds certified and out. Some of them are pretty, like the most easy builds, of course, like the Steam build, which is the quickest one to get out. It's one that we iterate on most rapidly, especially if we're attempting to get fixes out for individual bugs. Doesn't require any review at all. We literally can say build, upload, live. Whereas other platforms, like for example Nintendo Switch, the build has to go through their what they call a lot check process, and we give them a build, and then somewhere between 5 and they say up to 20 days later that can be approved and then pushed out. I don't know that we've ever had one take 20 days. I think on sort of our worst case was around 10 to 12. But they also have a limit because they have individual, like they have their QA people check the builds to make sure that they work. They actually have limits on how many you can submit. So we actually have to be quite careful that we're pushing out builds for those platforms that we have tested thoroughly in advance. Because if a bug goes out on there, we've got there's an emergency fix process that we can do, but they limit you to not being able to do that very frequently. And of course, if we were doing that frequently, they would be raising eyebrows and potentially being like, listen, you guys, you're over your limit, because it does use staff on their part. I think, am I wrong to say that you could do more, but they actually would charge you for it I feel like there was something around that. But and then there are platforms in between, and something like PlayStation, for example, takes a few days for them to check it. The Xbox is a similar process, but it takes between 24 and 48 hours. And then iOS, again, similar process, and that can take anywhere between 24 hours and 3 days once it's gone through. So what we like to do is get the builds out to the platforms that we can iterate on quickly, and then if anything comes back that is, hey, there's actually, you guys screwed up and you put it out and it's got this issue in it, we can fix that and then confirm that that's fixed before we push it out to the platforms that have a significant turnaround time. So yeah, I think I've covered the most of the basics on that. But yeah, the different platforms do have some from limited to severe restrictions on how quickly we can get builds out.
It's also a thing where we generally initially push, like Dave says, on sort of Steam and Epic, because we can very quickly iterate if there are issues, and we kind of wait until those builds are pretty solid and don't have any issues. And so I know right now, like, we're iterating quite quickly on the store, and we're pushing out new builds onto Steam multiple times a day at this point. Just trying to get the store to a point where it is at least playable, if not more satisfying to use. And so that's why we're kind of holding off on pushing those builds out to some of the other platforms. I know Xbox is quite a bit behind right now. I think iOS is fairly behind, but they're not going to be behind on content. We always make sure that we get content like new champions and that out to all platforms at roughly the same time. It's really just kind of the new features and iterating on those that can sometimes lag a bit from one platform to another. But yeah, new champions and stuff will always come out to all platforms at the same time.
Yeah, certainly we prioritize that. Okay, let's move on then.
Sure. Okay, the next question. Sorry, I got to go all the way back up in the document to find the questions here. Next question's from the Lurking Writer. They say, the new Modron core layout is a great improvement. Can we please have an update to remove all animations, i.e. have a static color representing the flow? It's not a priority, but would be nice to have this as a toggle function if possible. Cheers.
Yeah,
so basically they're just looking for it to, like,
to the little green arrows to not
new stuff.
And I suppose that also precludes the non-deprioritize toggle function, because we added the option to not show the not to animate the flow through the pipes. It just appears, which I assume they'd be already doing. But then the animation has got the little, like I said, there are bubbles and arrows in there that indicate the directional flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why that couldn't be turned off. I'd be curious to know if there was a particular reason that was being requested, if it was for performance or if it was just distracting, or yeah. But it certainly feels like something we could add to the toggles.
That whole dialogue is just going to be toggles eventually.
Just turn the whole thing off.
We'll have to have a whole settings menu just for the Modron core screen.
It's funny, I see the comments here, and I assume no one filled them in, but Garwar is asking, why was there no changelog or announcement of the new Modron screen updates? Seems like you might want to talk about your wins. And I know that one came up internally because that was an example of something that we'd done up and pushed out, and off you go, and then not mentioned it anywhere. And I'm not actually sure why it didn't even make it into the changelog.
Should have made it into the changelog at the very least.
I mean, suggestion here is that it didn't, so I don't know. But other than perhaps myself saying on stream shortly after that it had been looked at, we didn't really promote that, and I think we probably should have. So we're actually looking into making sure we get some of those more front and center, whether it's announced on the Discord or on our various social media, or at the very least in the changelog.
The bare minimum would be the changelog. Discord is kind of step 2, and then social media would be step 3. So we are actively trying to improve that process and that flow. Let's see. Next question from Ray Cool, who says, with all the platforms that are supported now, what stands in the way of a native Linux build?
Really just there being enough demand for it. We end up, every time we add a build, that adds another platform that has to be, it adds another build that has to be built and then deployed somewhere for whatever platform that's coming on, whether that's it could be a Steam build, I suppose. But every time we do that, that adds an additional amount of time to when the builds get done. And it's already quite a bit of time is already spent doing that. And so really to absorb that, to know that every time we do an update, we're going to be doing another build, we need to make sure that there would be players, a sufficient number of players there that don't have another option to use a different platform. As well as when you do that sort of thing, we open ourselves up to, it's not just doing the build, but also potentially platform-specific bugs, which then results in having to spend time sorting through platform-specific bugs, which would likely mean that we'd have to get a Linux machine set up here with to test the build on. And so basically what stands in the way is just knowing that there's an audience there that's large enough that can't alternatively just use it a different platform. So it would have to make sense from the time that would get invested in it.
Yep. Okay.
Next question here is from Chainstar. Is Delina going to get some love?
It's good we haven't had this question in a little while. Delina, will likely get some love at some point. So one of the things we are looking at doing in the next little while is kind of looking through all of the champions that are quote underperforming, and seeing if we can give them just some numbers love, because we don't really have the dev cycles right now to do some sort of major reworks on a lot of champions. So we're looking at ones that are sort of low-hanging fruit that we can touch, and we can touch up via just some data changes. So that is something we're actively doing, and we're hoping to get that out in the next little while. And Delina may very well be one of those champions. Kind of the way we look at underperforming is we look at how well a champion is performing within their seat. So, in an ideal world, all champions in a seat are used sort of the same percentage across the player base. Obviously, that ideal world is a pretend world that doesn't exist, but at the very least, we like to get them as close as we can. And so we are looking through the champions kind of one at a time and looking at their usage numbers and going from the bottom up basically to find champions to give some love to. So I'm not actually sure where Delina is on that list. I feel like she's probably fairly far down there, and so we'll see if we can give her some more zeros. A couple more orders of magnitude of damage.
Okay. Next question from Noobles76. Do you have any more discussion about allowing to view the profile stats of champs on the bench without having to swap them?
Yeah, I actually don't know. I probably should have highlighted this in purple because it's more of a both of us question. But this is something I think that would be very useful, a really good quality of life update, to be able to view the profile and the stats and the ability scores and alignment and whatnot of champions without having to swap to them, because that's super annoying. It kind of feeds in a little bit to the thing I talk about every week, which is sort of a collection screen plus, where you can view the details of all your champions and see which champions you don't have yet, and view their details, and just a whole kind of encyclopedia dialogia in the game. But that's a little ways off, so we can do some sort of smaller lower hanging fruit like this. I think would be good in the next little while as a quality of life update, but I don't have a timeline or really a clear idea of if this is even kind of possible within the way that the profile dialogue works right now. So it's something that we'll have to kind of discuss with the team.
All right. Next question. Looks like you just highlighted the whole section here. So
I saw a couple of questions in a row.
This question here is from Sharky151. Will the game continue to be an idle game, or is it evolving into an active play style?
Yeah, this is a good question. It's something good to kind of think about and chat about. So I think that the game is, I don't think we're trying to shift the game with anything that we're putting out these days. So there's no intentional sort of evolution of the game going on. I think the game is already kind of sailed a little bit past idle game and is in the more active play style genre. But I don't think we're trying to change it to be any less idle or any more active. I think we're pretty happy with where it is right now in terms of the actions you kind of take within the game, and sort of that one more turn kind of feel where there's always something more you can do to kind of incrementally increase your progress. So yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty happy with where it is right now, and I certainly wouldn't want to make it any more active. But I'm also not feeling any pressure to pull it back or make it more idle either. I did see one question scroll past here in the chat. Someone was asking if their question was missed. This is specifically about Orkira's burning hands. I didn't miss that question. I did see it. I didn't answer it because I simply do not know. And occasionally I will highlight a question and we will ask it, and I'll say I don't know. But in general, I don't like to do that because it's not very interesting for players, I don't think. So if we miss your question, or if we appear to miss your question, it's not because we didn't read it. We read every single question. We just don't have a good answer for it, and we like to try and use our hour to give you guys good answers, rather than just no's and I don't knows and I don't know. So yeah,
for sure.
Moving on.
Next question is from Mestuvali. All right.
Actually, what we like to do is use the hour trying to pronounce your guys' names. So, yeah.
Messi Duval Lee. Does that mean that human nerf will make the hero useless in the future? I'm really scared.
So our plans, anytime we have to go nerf a champion, it sucks. We don't like doing it. My philosophy is always to buff other champions to the same level as the champion that is OP, rather than nerf them down. Sometimes we just have to. So in the case of human, we don't have any interest in nerfing them to uselessness. Humans kind of thing is that the item level you need to get to basically 1 kill to complete an area is not properly tuned, which is very ironic considering the name of the ability is called Perfectly Balanced. That was not perfectly balanced at all. Big fail. Shame on you, me. So the human, the plans for the human nerf are really to just try and pull them back a little bit and try and adjust that scaling so that it takes a little bit more effort to get him or get them really, really good, and potentially cap out how good they can get. So it's we don't want to nerf them into oblivion so that they're only like, they only give you like a 2x speed bonus by the time you get them to a bazillion item levels. But we certainly want to pull it back so it's not like 1,500, 1,800 item levels to cap out that ability.
Yeah. All right. Next question from Warlock Database Admin. That's what that is, I swear. Any chance we can get an in-game count or list of heroes that we have and lack? I end up finding out that I lack things when I see a stream and have to decide if I'm looking at a character I lack or a skin.
Yeah, this is actually kind of related to the question I answered a little bit earlier, of having that kind of overall collections screen and having a place where you can go and see basically everything in the game and what percentage of it you have. I figure if I keep on talking about this and keep on getting excited about it every week, that eventually it'll happen. So we'll just keep on doing this and we'll see. It'd be a really cool thing. I think it'd be a really fun thing to explore, while you're waiting for your champions to farm up some gold or waiting to get past a boss or whatever, or just even waiting to get back to your wall. You can just go and check it out and see what you're missing and see, what's my overall progress in the game, like one percentage bar that is like, you are this much done the game. And then we literally just keep on adding things to the game so it never fills up. I think that'd be really cool, but there's really no ETA on when that kind of thing would happen, unfortunately, because it's an enormous project. Oh, look, there's more people.
I know what's going on.
Oh, it's a doggy. Hi, Faith.
All right. Where were we?
Everyone in the chat say woof.
Let's see.
Next question here. This one's blue. From Maniac Clown. They say, when buying chess, could we please get the ability to type a number instead of using the slider? Sometimes it's hard to get exactly on the number we want. I'm seeing the woofs come through. Thank you very much.
All right. Sorry, distracted there. When buying just, yeah, I mean that seems like a perfectly reasonable request. Gotta be honest. I'm just gonna tag that.
Seems like that's doable.
Yellowed. All right. Next question here is from Vadine Cowboy. Are new players going to be able to obtain Dungeon Master without paying IRL?
Yes. So Dungeon Master is going to be the event champion in I believe our next event. Like next week or something like that. So yeah, you'll be able to obtain them just like any other event champion. You got to farm up 500 event currency, which takes, a few hours. And then you just start the recruit adventure and you can get them. It's as simple as that. In fact, all the champions in the game are available to obtain without paying IRL. If you want to play completely free to play, that is a very possible and a thing that a lot of players do. This next question here. This came up during our kind of discussion about wild offers earlier, and I wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit more. So Dan SSJ4B, Dan's Jab, says, can we get a way to possibly save a wild offer for later so that we can purchase it later when we have more disposable funds? I thought this was kind of an interesting proposition. This also got kind of my imagination going a little bit, and sort of combining this with Dave, with your suggestion of like thumbs up or thumbs downing an offer. It might be cool to just be able to just like thumbs up or thumbs down like specific parts of the offer. So you can be like, hey, yeah, like, next time offer me this same GE or this same skin, or next time like offer me, these same Modron chests, because I really want Modron chests or supply chests or whatnot from the wild offer.
There you go. That's what people want.
Everyone wants supply chests. I mean, yeah. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of an interesting suggestion. What are your thoughts on that, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I tagged that question there actually, because it did seem like there's something that feels like there's something there potentially. Like potentially that's something we could do. We'd probably make it so some limit on it, like you can only hang on to one, or yeah, and it definitely feels like there's
it's like a board game mechanic. It's like you're playing Splendor or something, and you're like, I'm gonna take that card, flip it over, and I'll pay for it later. And just yeah. No, that certainly is, it's triggered some thoughts, but I'm not sure that there's similar to the previous question. It certainly got me thinking. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. The next question we have here is from Optima Parjum. I'm going with it. I know there's good luck protection. Wait, good luck protection? Is it to protect you from good luck?
Actually, I think they mean bad.
Yeah, no good luck for you. We're protecting against it. There is, at least on my account. At any rate, I know there's bad luck protection in the game, and I love it. But it made me think, is there any form of good luck protection? I should have read the whole question through. Anyway.
You should have read the question.
I should. Yeah. As in, there's nothing stopping the game from giving me 6 epic... Okay, so that is the question. Cool. I'm probably just making this really confusing for everyone. Let's start again. The question is, I know there is bad luck protection in the game, and I love it, but it made me think, is there any form of good luck protection? As in, there's nothing stopping the game from giving me 6 epic items / shiny in a chest, except extreme luck.
Yeah, I mean, there is no form of good luck protection except for odds and and random chance. I'd have to calculate the odds of getting a... I mean, I guess you couldn't get 6 times epic items in a chest because, well, A, there's only 5 items in the chest. And B, I think a maximum of 3 of those can be equipment items. You certainly could theoretically get 3 epic items that were... I think we cap out shinies at 1 per chest as well. So you could get the best chest in the world would be 5 epic items, 3 of which were equipment items, 1 of which was shiny, and then I imagine 2 other like epic potions or something like that would probably be like the best possible chest that existed. But that would be astronomically low odds because you're already starting at 1 in 1,000 for the shiny item, and then I think it's around 1% per epic item. So. I've seen really good chests before. I've seen chests with 2 epic equipment items in them, but I haven't seen one with 3 epic equipment items in it before. But it could happen. Yeah.
So long story short, nothing is preventing you other than extreme luck from getting a thwack ton of good items in one pull.
I guess all you can do to try and test that is just you're going to have to buy hundreds of thousands of chests and open them all up and see, and maybe it's in there. It's the only way to find out.
I assume you're donating these chests, right?
If anyone buys 100,000 chests, I will certainly donate some of those funds to a good cause.
All right. Next question is
possibly last question.
That's true.
We're getting pretty close to the end of the hour.
It's true. All right. Next question here then, potentially last question, is from Smuggle Bira. Have you ever considered to add a buff breakdown? So you could see champ's total buff, so you don't have to go to a spec champ and scroll through and look for a buff, or navigate the small icons on the champ wheel, or make it easier to navigate the incoming effects with collapsible tags, for example, blessings, buffs, or all formation buffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a good question. It is something that honestly, it's been on my mind since very shortly after release, because we kind of the little icons that are around the champion in the formation, at least on the sort of base UI, they were kind of a holdover from Crusaders of the Lost Idols, which was our game before this one. And honestly, I've never really been at all happy with how they've worked.
I don't think anybody has been. That was one heck of an argument when that one went down.
It just doesn't work very well. So I mean, I think ways of making it more clear what buffs are incoming and outgoing for a champion is something we've been thinking about for a long time. One of the kind of things that makes it hard to do is just there's so many effects going back and forth across the formation. It is incredibly difficult to succinctly, concisely, and clearly show what is happening in the game. So it's something we continue to struggle with, and honestly, like even though we hate, not hate is a strong word. Even though we do not think that the kind of the icons around the champion work in any way whatsoever. We have not been able to find or come up with a better way to do that in the 4.5, 5 years that we've been at this for Idle Champions. So it's a very, very hard problem. It's one I would love to solve, but it's tough. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, that's definitely a big system to be able to display in a nice, in a user-friendly way, in a way that's clear and understandable.
Yeah.
Cool. There's one last point here actually I was going to address, because it was from sort of a follow-up from an earlier question. And this was a comment here made by Starfish711 saying, I guess the question is, will Icy run Proto on the Steam Deck? And I think that's trying to say run on Proton. Yeah. And the answer is yes, the game runs just fine on the Steam Deck. So it's got that going for it. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that is all the time we have for questions.
Yeah. So as always, if we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry. You'll have another opportunity. We will maybe be live again at this same time next week, or maybe not. There might be something else going on the channel. If we're not live next week, then we'll be live the week after that, probably. Before we sign off though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was M&M, Mars, and Martin. They copy your questions into our questions doc and generally help to make things awesome. So thanks, guys. Yeah,
and of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking great questions, and enjoying the game. Without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
We'd have to do something else, I guess.
Oh, figuring that out sounds like a lot of work. Oh, Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye. Do you think they liked my draft?
Oh, they loved your draft.
I love that draft. There it is. Aw, bye, buddy.